Alright, so for some reason the World Championships are contested by national teams, which makes things a little weird. For example, Italy qualified a ton of riders, but doesn't really have a great one-day specialist, and in fact, Vincenzo Nibali, who has their best one-day results, crashed early on. But hey, you got 9 guys, so might as well pull. The tactic had worked well enough for Poland, who'd done most of the work grinding down the break's early advantage, as evidenced by the 4 Polish guys who dropped out of the race with 68k to go. When you've got a team of 9 and other guys have to make do with a team of just 3, you can get away with this sort of thing. At 67k to go, Colombia's CJ Quintero decided to distance himself from the, louder kits of his breakaway companions and give us a nice look at the race circuit. First up, the long but not particularly steep Confederacion climb. Not sure exactly when the rest of the break was swept up, as the production wasn't great, but the field didn't make it easy on the crew, splintering and regrouping up to and past the point Quintero was caught 3k later. Still, the hopping between various groups with unlabeled cameras, fading out of attacks, and unorthodox time checks made me very glad when the group finally sat up following the descent off Confederacion, letting a relatively threatening group of 13 outsiders coalesce over the shorter, steeper Mirador climb just inside 60k to go. Germany had 2 riders in the escape, so rather than pull, they sent Tony Barton up the road out of this newly formed breakaway, which is really kind of meta if you think about it. This situation held through 3 laps to go, with Australia, who'd likely avoided the break entirely, banking instead on Simon Gerrans in the closing kilometers, left to police the advantage. Martin stretched his gap to 25 seconds at one point, but the break brought him back over the top of the Mirador at 41k to go, and based on my extensive personal research into gesture communication and body language, by 2 laps to go it became pretty clear that this wasn't going to be the move. Italy's Giovanni Visconti and Great Britain's Peter Kenyon went clear from this break just after the lap, but the momentum from the rest of the group's recapture, or Switzerland's Michael Albacini's attacking, or some combination thereof, reeled them back. A surge by France's Cyril Gauthier followed, nice Italian teamwork put Alessandro De Marchi into the mix, and a brilliantly timed response from Denmark's Michael Andersen made it a trio. Albacini really wanted to be there, but couldn't find a companion to help him seal the gap. De Marchi's had a breakthrough year, but mostly off solo rides, and watching him here, I almost get the impression he really doesn't get along with other people. With the trio feuding, the pack was happy to call a truce, and in the meantime, Belarus's Vasil Kirienka began his sojourn across no man's land. Albacini, Belgium, and Spain set off some fireworks up the Mirador, but it was Poland's Maciej Peterski doing the grunt work afterward into the final lap. With a lead group of 4 at 15k to go, Spain, along with the ever-present Albacini, finally started to do some chasing, bringing the gap down to 18 seconds by the foot of the Confederacion. Unfortunately for the host nation, there were still some really fast hombres in the bunch, and while Belgium's pacemaking reduced the gap to a handful of seconds by the top, it didn't exactly thin the herd. Poland's Michał Kwiatkowski hit out of the pack with some pretty serious speed and held nothing back on the sweeping descent, building a gap out of line commitment as much as pedal strokes. De Marchi's reaction upon realizing the pole had bridged the gap was nothing short of priceless. Kwiatkowski didn't bide his time, attacking well before Mirador and making a handy gap as soon as the road went up, with just 5k remaining, most of it downhill. Spain, sensing the danger, sent Joaquin Rodriguez up the road. Belgium's Philippe Gilbert responded, and that was enough to convince Australia's Simon Gerrans to follow the move as well. Spain's Alejandro Valverde also followed the move, bringing a handful of others, but Rodriguez faltered near the top, and Belgium, not the host nation, wound up with the numerical advantage in the chase. Ahead, Kwiatkowski's commitment was total, elbows on the tops on a wet descent, pedaling on the top tube, and while the 5 riders 8 seconds back weren't exactly uncooperative, every look back or half-second's hesitation was another few meters for the pole. After dutifully working for teammate Greg Van Avermaet, Gilbert finally called for help on the home stretch and got none. It's always tough to tell, but I'm pretty sure Kwiatkowski looks back here and knows he has it. Grinning, retreating to the hoods, wiping his nose. Behind his extended celebrations, Gerrans made short work of the sprint for second, while Valverde just nips Denmark's Matti Breschel on the line, much to the Danes' consternation. A frustration echoed moments later by Norway's Alexander Kristoff, leading home the field in 8th. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.